I know them. Good evening, everybody. All right, as you come in, I want to make sure that you guys stay on mute. I didn't restrict you all the way, but I don't need you coming off of mute today until it's your turn to ask questions. So that's our housekeeping rule of the day. Just make sure you're on mute. When you have a question, raise your hand, and I'll go through this again in a little bit. But for those who are connected to audio so you can hear me, we'll stay muted until it's time for questions, and then we'll use the raise hand functions. We'll get started in a second. And feel free you can come on camera if you like, or you can stay off camera, either or. And this. There we go. Okay. And then again, we'll get started in a second. My name is Maisha Robertson. I am the president of the San Francisco National Black MBA Association. Before we get into all of this, I do want you guys to connect with each other. So if you can do me the huge favor of putting in the chat your name, the city that you are located in, and your LinkedIn URL so you guys can connect with each other. So networking is key to what we do. And so we want to make sure that everybody's connected. So once I figure out where mine is, I will drop it in the chat as well. Be the example. So with me, I am in Oakland, and my URL is here. And feel free to connect with me. What I do tell people when you're connecting on LinkedIn, make sure you leave a little note just to remind people where you guys connected from. So just say we were on the same virtual session for National Black MBA San Francisco. Thank you, Tiffany. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it, Amy. Vacaville is between Davis and San Francisco. Just
no one knows Vacaville, right?
If you don't know California, just so you know. I totally understand because it took me half my whole life to realize that there was an El Cerrito. I didn't know that. So I was like, oh, this is a real city. Okay. I pass it every day on the freeway. Did not know. So yeah, we need to know where these cities are. Hi, Mary. And then for everybody who came in a little bit like during my speech and everything, what I was saying is everybody's on mute right now until we get to the Q&A portion. And the only thing that I ask from the audience is that you use your raised hand function before you unmute. So that way we could just pretend like we're in person and raise your hand so we can see you. You can leave questions in the chat, but you will have an opportunity to ask questions off of mute if you want. And then if you just came in, make sure that you drop your name in the chat along with the city that you're in and your LinkedIn URL. Thank you, Scott. All right. So we will get started in a second. Thank you, Donovan. Beautiful. We have somebody from Princeton, New Jersey. And I've seen Atlanta. Thank you for staying up past your bedtime with us. I know we're on the West Coast time, so it's a little later on the East Coast, so we appreciate you so much. All right, so let's get started. I'm trying to make sure, I guess you can see me. It's my background, so I was like, I was just a change background, a little different. So I think I might just go ahead and no, we're gonna leave it. It's the middle of the day for us. This is dinner time, so this is when I get like the little anxious mode. I'm like, but I like doing this, and then I don't like doing that. So bear with me, and I have a lot of energy right now from coffee. So, for all of those who don't know me, my name is Maisha Robertson. I am the president of the Chapter of the Year, San Francisco Bay Area chapter of the National Black MBA Association. We are celebrating our 45th year this year. We are celebrating being the 2023 Chapter of the Year for National Black MBA as well. And we are just celebrating being who we are, Black excellence, and acknowledging everybody who is a member, who is a supporter, and who is a corporate partner or a collegiate partner. Everything that we do is because of you guys, and we can't continue doing what we do without you guys. So we appreciate all of you guys for being here. Again, those on the East Coast who stayed up late, and then those on the West Coast as well. This is a very great session for you guys to be in, especially if you have been thinking about getting your MBA or your doctorate, right? These are opportunities for us that we want to make sure that you guys have access to understanding the programs. And I'm grateful that we have these wonderful UC programs here in California. And so if you notice, the theme was UCs that we have on the session today. And so today we have UC Davis and we have Berkeley Haas. We're just going to reschedule our UCLA just to later date, but I'm excited to have these two amazing schools here on the line with us as well. And so again, if you just joined us, I want you to put your LinkedIn URL in the chat to connect with other folks. Tell us where you are and then your name as well. And then just stay on mute. If you're going to ask a question, please use the raise hand function if you want to come off of mute, or you can put your question in the chat. And so now, to get us started, I'm going to let our wonderful panel introduce themselves. And then right after that, we're going to start with Anthony from Berkeley to do the presentation. So if we want to start with Amy or Lizzie, either one want to start to kick us off.
I'm happy to start. Hi, everyone. I am Amy Russell. I am the Senior Assistant Dean of Student Affairs over here at the UC Davis Graduate School of Management. I am actually a double Aggie, so I have both my undergraduate from Davis as well as my MBA. Came from a circular route. I actually started out on the Master's of Education side, and then I slowly made my way to the business school and got my MBA along the same line. It's been an incredible opportunity. Like, what I love about the MBA is using what you learn in the class every single day at work to be more impactful. I think I'm on like my 4th or 5th promotion in 14 years on through there, and I'm the Senior Assistant Dean. So I get to manage the people program and strategy supporting 7 of our 8 graduate business programs. From the MBA, we have 4 modalities, to the Masters of Management. We are launching 2 modalities, to the Masters of Science and Business Analytics. And I get to work with Lizzie Mayo, who is amazing, and I'm going to turn it over to her. And thank you, Maisha, so much for having us. Congratulations again on Chapter of the Year, and great to meet everybody.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for the introduction. My name is officially Elizabeth Mayo, but most people call me Lizzie. That's what's on my business cards. But for LinkedIn, it does say Elizabeth Mayo, so I thought I'd use my real name. I've been in higher ed for over 20 years, and 14 of those years have been in graduate admissions. And I've been with UC Davis for about 2 years now, and I was at a previous institution working in allied health graduate admissions. And I left that position to get my MBA. I did a full-time program. And I was at a point in my career where I was financially stable and I could do that. And I did. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And it led me to UC Davis. And so I found a home there. And my role is Associate Director of Admissions. My primary responsibility is for the Bay Area part-time MBA admissions, but I do read the applications for the full-time program as well. So I'm going to pass it on to Anthony.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Witt. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am currently serving as the Director of Diversity Admissions at Haas, and so I work across all of our degree programs, both graduate and undergraduate, as we look to diversify our student communities. On top of that work, I'm actually currently serving as the interim executive director of our full-time MBA admissions team. And so I work directly with that team in terms of developing the student profile of who's coming to our program. And so similar to Lizzie, I've actually been in education over 20 years. although my origin point in education, actually, I started as a high school teacher. And so I spent 12 years teaching in East Coast. I'm living my best West Coast life as a native East Coaster in Virginia. And so for me, especially in thinking about graduate education and opportunities, that the core has been really around this idea of opportunity, that I see a lot of the work I do in admissions is really providing access and opportunity to candidates like yourself who are thinking about what's next for you in the future. Before I actually do start my presentation, I do want to acknowledge that my colleague, Melissa Hacker, is here from the PhD program. So I do want to also allow her an opportunity to introduce herself.
If she can figure out how to unmute herself, she'll acknowledge that. Thank you, Anthony. Hi, I'm Melissa Hacker. I'm the Executive Director of the PhD program at the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. And like these other lovely people, I've been in higher ed for 20 or so years, a little more than 20 years, undergraduate and graduate, but since about 2010 graduate only. So just with PhD programs. I've been at the business school since 2014 in this role. I love it. I think I'm the only person here. Actually, I'm not sure about Anthony, but the only other person here besides Anthony that does not have an MBA, because I've always worked in I've always worked in academic programs. It never seemed like a necessity, but I kind of wish I had done it because people have such fabulous experiences with their programs. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Melissa. And I also am someone who doesn't have an MBA. I have 2 other master's degrees in education as a part of my journey. And so I'd like to start, and if you're not familiar with Haas, I'd actually like to start talking a little bit about who we are, our culture, and what you can expect from the experience, but then also talk a little bit about the options we have as a graduate student. And so one of the things I do want to mention just as a caveat before I start is that this is just a really brief overview, that each of the programs I talk about offer their own info sessions, which I highly encourage you to attend so that you can get more details about the programs and the requirements, and I'll only be able to talk about just a few of them and moving through the program. And so if you're not familiar with Haas, one of the things that we really pride ourselves around is our nature of really thinking about innovation. And I think part of the aspect of both being in California, but also being in the Bay, we really see that we're able to really think about and really utilize opportunities and access for innovation here in the Bay Area. That our location, as well as also the ecosystem that exists, provides a lot of opportunities for people who want to think about how to navigate entrepreneurship, but ultimately really think about how to actually answer big questions that exist in the world. And so in addition to thinking about our location, the other big draw and thinking about coming to Haas is really thinking about us being a values-driven institution, that our defining leadership principles are really at the foundation and the bedrock of what it means to be a Haas community member, whether or not you're a student or faculty or staff, that these 4 principles really lay the foundation of what it means to be a contributing member of the Haas community. And so that's another component of who we are. In addition, I think what's also important to you is also be thinking about the student experience. And so at Haas, we pride ourselves on the access and opportunities that within our MBA programs, the bulk of the coursework you actually will complete are electives. And so you ultimately really get to design and really navigate that journey in terms of what really matters to you in terms of your curriculum. About 40% of your curriculum will be our core curriculum, which we think is really necessary for students to master to become really strong leaders in business. In addition, we also pride our program on being experiential, where there are going to be a lot of opportunities to especially in our core curriculum, to take the knowledge that we gave you, and especially as Amy just talked about, to figure out what are the practical ways this actually makes sense in the real world. How do you actually apply all that information? Some other things that are really important about the Haas experience is that we use a cohort model. So a lot of your experience is really built around getting to know a small group that feeds into a larger group. And we have one of the benefits of really just being able to really focus and sharpen our MBA communities just in general based upon that concept. So I want to take a few minutes to talk about our MBA program specifically. And one of the biggest things to know about our programs is that there are a lot of different pathways to getting your MBA. That at Haas, we offer a full-time option, we offer an evening weekend option, we offer an executive option. The biggest delineator between these three options is really about, one, what best suits your lifestyle in terms of how you actually want to complete your degree. And then secondly, how much work experience you have. Because each experience is really designed for different types of leaders in business, that particularly if you're someone who we might consider to be just early in their career, that the full-time program is probably the best for you. But if you're someone who's been working and you ultimately don't want to leave your employment, but really want the advancement of an MBA, the evening weekend will be the pathway for you. In addition to being both an evening program and a weekend program, we also within that program have what we call the flex option, which is basically our online experience where ultimately you have classes two evenings per week, but then you also have 3 to 4 opportunities to come to campus to have engagement and opportunities to really connect with the rest of your cohort in the Haas community. And so one of the big things about our MBA programs is that regardless of what pathway you choose, that we recognize that ultimately you're earning a Haas degree. And so the degree is basically the same between all 3 pathways. The faculty is the same, it's the same campus, it's the same alumni network, utilize the same resources. And so really, as I mentioned before, that what degree pathway you choose is really about what's best suits your lifestyle and the opportunities that you want to come out of that. In addition, becoming a part of our MBA community will give you access to over 40 student organizations. And so these organizations range from both affinity groups as well as also industry groups that are Black Business Student Association, one of the premier organizations on campus. There are a lot of opportunities for engagement as well as also connection between community members of both the full-time program as well as also evening weekend students. In addition, I do want to talk a little bit about what is it that we're looking for when we evaluate applicants for each of our programs. And so there are slight nuances between full-time versus evening weekend versus the executive MBA programs. But on the whole, there are 3 broad categories that every program uses to assess candidates. The first one being academics, that ultimately we're using your academic history to look at your capacity to handle the rigor of the core curriculum, which is really heavily based in the quantitative studies like econ, finance, as well as also accounting. But we're also looking to see what your intellectual curiosity is. And so where are places that we find this information? We're going to take a look at your academic transcript, look at your undergraduate GPA. Our programs do require you also to take a standardized test. And so for the full-time program, you can use the GMAT, the GRE. If you're applying to the evening weekend program, in addition to the GMAT and the GRE, they also will accept the executive assessment as a means of demonstrating your academic readiness. In addition to the academic components, we're also going to look at your professional journey. And so when I talk about the professional journey, I like to talk about is thinking about what has been your impact and your trajectory. And so how are you thinking about in the ways that you are both an informal and formal leader? How can you actually demonstrate and speak to what the leadership growth you could have by completing your MBA? And so we're going to look at your resume. We'll ask you to complete an employment section on an application. We'll ask you to complete letters of recommendation from people who know you really well and can speak to those questions of leadership that I just kind of spoke about. In addition, we'll also ask you in our essays to kind of talk about what are your aspirations? What do you actually want to do with the MBA? And then lastly, one of the important components of the MBA piece is we also look at your personal qualities and that we're looking to cultivate a community device of diverse learners as well as also diverse perspectives. We want to make sure that you have a values alignment to our defining leadership principles, that you see yourself, if not in just one, but all of the defining leadership principles if that applies to you. And so there are a lot of different ways that you'll have opportunities to display your personal qualities. You'll have your essays. All of the MBA programs have some type of interview component. They're just slightly different depending on what program you want to enter. But we also will take a look at your extracurricular activities, both from undergrad as well as also what you've been doing as a professional in the community since you graduated from undergrad. And so that's high level, kind of the big 3 in terms of what we really base our evaluation in for MBA candidates. I want to pivot now and talk about one of our different opportunities, which is our PhD program. And so I do want to highlight some of the different ways you can approach and think about both what is it we offer and then how do you actually apply for a program. So what's important to know about the PhD at Haas is that our program is a 5-year, full-time, in residence, fully funded degree. To study in the PhD space, one of the important things that you need to do as an applicant is figure out what area, or what, as we described, in what field do you want to specialize in? And so at Haas, there are 8 of them for you to choose from. And so within these fields, there are faculty who are doing and answering big questions about how society operates, what are the opportunities, how do we assess these different things. As an applicant, one thing that's really beneficial to you to do as you prepare for the application is to figure out who those faculty members are that align to what your interests are. And as you think about your application, you'll have to identify faculty members you actually want to attach to. So it's really important that you do your research and really understand, I want to answer this question, does it fit in finance? Or does it fit in some other area that you need to really think about what faculty is researching in this space that I can align to at Haas? As I mentioned, the PhD at Haas is fully funded. And so for 5 years, and what that means is that you have tuition, you have fees, you have health insurance, and a stipend for both your fall and spring semesters. In exchange, you are required to work for 4 semesters total as a graduate student instructor or researcher. And this typically happens in your 2nd, 3rd, or 4th year. And that one of the things, particularly as a PhD student, you want to think about is, as probably in your everyday life, is that the funds that you're receiving from this opportunity may not necessarily cover all of your bills. It's also thinking about what are some other opportunities that might exist for you as you navigate higher ed education, in terms of what are the side gigs, what are those other opportunities that might be prevalent for you in thinking about that experience. And so I do also want to note specifically, what are the things that we look for as we evaluate applicants? Within the PhD space, it's just slightly different. There is still the academic review. We're looking for a strong academic performance in terms of your undergrad. You will also still need to contribute a GMAT or GRE score. We're still also looking for quantitative coursework that you can understand the principles of research and calculate those things. And that more specifically, we are looking specifically at your interest in research, and that we're looking at your capacity to handle the rigor of what it means to be an academic. We're looking to see what your unique experience or perspective might be within expanding research. And then we're also looking to see what experience have you already had with research. And so, as I mentioned, one of the really important things to make sure that you do is to investigate what faculty align to what your interests are. Really incorporate that into thinking about your resume and your research history, as well as also thinking about who might be writing your letters of recommendation, as well as also thinking about what samples of written work you might submit in your application. And then lastly, there still is a component of the personal, that our PhD programs are also still looking for diverse backgrounds and perspectives, an interest in a career in academia, that we are really trying to nurture and educate the next generation of college professors or other educators within our program. And so it's really thinking about what are your goals and how they align to what you want to study for the future. You will also be required to submit a statement of purpose, as well as also a personal history statement. And as I've mentioned before, 3 letters of recommendation for the PhD program. And then lastly, I want to pivot to our last graduate program at Haas, which is not an MBA or PhD, but it's our Master's of Financial Engineering. And so the MFE degree is a 1-year program that prepares you with the knowledge and skills necessary if you're looking to do the intersections of finance and data science. It does offer a 2-year part-time option. Of all of our courses or all of our programs, it is the program that has the most quantitative prep, or at least the quantitative skills most required, where there's a strong link between having calculus, linear algebra, as well as exposure to computer programming. But if it's something that you're looking to advance within the financial engineering sector, it is an opportunity that also still exists for you at Haas and able to grow. And then lastly, I do want to speak to how do we actually serve diverse communities? How do we promote diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, and belonging? And so there are different areas in terms of thinking about where this comes across. It comes across in the courses we have in terms of learning. Haas has been one of the first institutions to add a DEI course to our core curriculum. In addition, we also added equity fluent leadership as one of our areas of emphasis. We don't have specializations where you have to focus in specific areas, but when you choose your electives, there are areas you kind of get to decide between, I really want to think about this topic and how it relates back to business. And so equity fluent leadership, or looking at diversity, equity, inclusion, is one of those things that is an area of emphasis for us. In addition, there are a lot of student events, boards, and projects that exist, many within our student community, but also within many of our centers. We have the Center for Social Sector Leadership, which has bears on boards, where our students are able to go into local community organizations and become board members to help guide them in terms of thinking about better business practices from MBA students. But there's just a lot of opportunities to really engage with hands-on learning about DEI specifically. In addition, many of our students receive direct support from the Haas community. And so, as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of affinity groups, which range from both racial as well as also other identity groups, including BBSA, as I mentioned. There's also our Q at Haas for LGBTQ population, as well as also our Women in Leadership, which focuses around gender equity and propelling women in business. In addition, Haas also has a really committed DEI team. I'm actually a member of the team. There are 6 of us. And so we each work in our different verticals. And so my work directly deals with the admission space and helping our teams. I also have a colleague, Katrina Koski, who works in the student experience space and really works with staff to grow their capacity to help our students feel more belonging. In addition, I have a colleague, Marco Lindsay, who works with both staff and alumni to think about how Haas itself is a community and really serving the people who are working there. And then we also have Dr. Queen Jacks, who works with our faculty, who really helps them, one, think about how to engage their students in a more inclusive and diverse classroom, and then 2, how to actually transform their curriculum in a way that really is captivating and really relevant to what people are experiencing. And then lastly, we're all directed by my boss, Dr. Elida Bautista, who is our Chief Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer, who works at the dean level to really think about Haas policy and really thinking about how are we embodying the values that we set out in terms of what we think about diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, and belonging. In addition, outside of just the DEI team, there are the different units across Haas that also offer opportunities. Our career management group, which works largely with our MBAs, offer a number of career counseling specific to underrepresented minorities, as well as also other underrepresented groups in business in terms of providing either early resources or early networking opportunities that are really beneficial to their process. And then lastly, as an alum, one of the big things that we've been working on is really thinking about how do we cultivate and grow and really make sure that there are relationships between alums who are out in the world and working and students who are currently here. So we are currently working on building both our Latinx as well as also our Black affinity groups so that there are stronger alumni presence for applicants or actually for current students as they move through their job progression. And then lastly, I do want to speak to our diversity partners that we exist largely in the MBA space. One of our biggest partnerships is with the Consortium, which is a national organization that if you have not researched it and you're interested in your MBA, I highly encourage you to do some research in the Consortium. It's an opportunity to be with like-minded people who also support diversity, equity, inclusion, and business, and really advocating and really supporting the elevation of African-American, Latinx, as well as also Native Americans in leadership in business. It is also one of the few opportunities to receive a full fellowship at Haas as a member of the consortium. That opportunity exists. In addition, I do want to highlight our partnership with the National Black MBA. Thank you, Maisha, for having us. And that there are actually 2 major benefits that I want to talk about related to the National Black MBA organization. The first is that as a student at Haas, we actually support any student who wants to be a member of the SF chapter with free membership while they're a student. And then secondly, we do have a fellowship program where we partner with Maisha and the SF chapter to support students who are interested in advocacy and supporting Black communities in their work. And so that opportunity also comes with both the fellowship, which includes both the experience of being a fellow, but then there also is, there are some fellows who do also receive scholarship support in their experience. And so earlier I posted my LinkedIn in the chat. If you have questions about Haas, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to engage with prospective students, answer your questions, meet virtually. And so I want to thank Maisha for this time to talk with you, and I look forward to your questions. I see that there have been questions in the chat. And so I look forward to your questions and being able to talk about more about what this experience is.
Beautiful. Thank you, Anthony, for that. And I'll
Hi,
take
babies.
questions. If you have your hand raised so I can see where you are. Mary?
Maisha, can you say that again? Sorry, I missed that.
It's okay. Mary, did you have a question? No, okay. All right. Are there any questions in the chat? Or any questions that anybody wants to ask? You could raise your hand. I see Donovan. Go ahead, Donovan.
Had to figure out how to unmute myself. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here. Hi, Lizzie. Nice to see you. Anthony, I appreciate your presentation. Very informative. Question for you. As it pertains to pivoting in your career, can you speak to a little bit about how pursuing an MBA from Haas can help someone who's considering pivoting, in their career at this time and making a change, even if they're uncertain of what type of change they may want to make at this time?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things I would say that I think one is that you would not be alone. I think that one of the biggest motivators of getting an MBA is really being able to kind of pivot and shift and kind of really think about what do I want to do next. The caveat to that, though, is that as you're thinking about how to present your story, is that even if you want to explore, have the backup plan that you kind of think, okay, I have this big grand idea. I kind of want to look more in this space, but if it doesn't work out, I want to do this thing that I have all this relevant work experience with that makes sense for like my background and the work that I've been doing and how I can elevate. Because I think one of the biggest things is that the experience itself is really about the opportunity to grow. But ultimately, as the admissions committee, we want to make sure that you're successful at the end of it. And part of that is making sure that we understand that we have the resources to help you. And for that to happen, you kind of have a sense of like an idea of what you might want to do. And then having a backup plan doesn't hurt.
Thank you.
I have one more. Go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Sorry I was a little late. I'm having some car issues right now, so I'm actually parked on the side of the road. But I'm John Franklin II. Thank you, Anthony, for your presentation for the part I caught. And I did have a question for you regarding internship opportunities while in the program. If you were, as a finance major, I've had some relevant experience, in banking, and I guess I understand how much relevant experience really, makes a difference, especially when you're looking to, get, vertical in your career. So I guess I was just asking, about the commitment to making sure that, students, have internships during the summers, and I guess just a little bit more on that. I didn't know maybe if I missed that, but thank you.
Well, thank you for asking. So one of the big changes that happened in COVID was that our full-time program actually requires an internship to complete the program. And you do receive considerable resources in order to make that happen. So one of the things I mentioned is that we do have our career management group, which is our service that basically provides you coaching as well as also access to industry. And so it's the thing that starts for you is the moment you're admitted, that you get access to resources to start beginning that process. But the other thing I'd also consider is that one of the things I mentioned was the consortium. The other really strong benefit of looking into consortium is that they have their own recruitment and networking opportunity that exists before the MBA program starts. And so that's another opportunity you would get as an access point into getting an internship so that you can actually make your degree progression.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And I guess following up that question, I just had one more. You were kind of speaking to, opportunities with the Black MBA to get scholarships and through the consortium, because I'm aware of the consortium. I was wondering, does, like, if you're with one, are you exclusive to that one? Are you able to, like, mutually benefit from, different, scholarship opportunities? Were you able to, have access to, other scholarships as well? Or if you're considered for a fellowship through the Black MBA or for the consortium, you only kind of get that scholarship. I don't know if you said that already, but if you could speak a little bit to that, that'd help too.
So in terms of funding, so funding conversations are different based on your personal circumstance and then also the program we're talking about. I would say that in terms of Haas funding, there are tons of students who receive scholarships, but then also might do what we call the GSI or GSR appointments, which is basically TAing. And so those things can be bundled together in order to provide assistance in funding your MBA.
Understandable. Thank you. That makes sense.
People, I have Nigel. And again, make sure that these are specific to UC Berkeley. If you have UC Davis, give us a second. Go ahead, Nigel.
Oh, then take myself off mute. Yeah, hi everyone. Great presentation there, Anthony. What caught my eye here is the PhD program, and what does that look like for someone who is not local to Berkeley and is interested in that program? I heard you mentioned that there's a stipend, so which means that you're probably not going to be in the workforce presently, and you need to be in that local area. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I'm actually going to bring Melissa back to answer this question because she is an expert.
Okay.
Hi, Nigel. Anthony basically answered the question. Our program is a program that requires you to be in residence in Berkeley. Every year you're in the program, you're required to actually take classes, though the majority of them are the first 2 years. But after that, as Anthony mentioned during his presentation, you are also required to work. So both of those things really necessitate you being on campus. And though obviously we can work with our colleagues and our professors remotely, we find that our students being able to work in the same room, in the same space with our professors when they collaborate on research or when they assist a professor seems to be really the best way for everyone to learn and ascertain knowledge and research skills. In terms of the stipend, yes, it's definitely a situation where you can't work unless you work during the summers. And even then, a lot of our professors prefer that their students don't work during the summer off the campus. It's definitely a situation, especially for folks that have actually been in industry for a while, that then return to academia or start in academia. Definitely a situation where there's a pretty steep difference between what most people have become accustomed to making financially versus what they receive from us as a stipend. So, there are students, it runs the gamut. There are students that have partners that, maybe kick in more money or support them in a way that they didn't previously. We have folks that sometimes opt to borrow a little bit of money while they're going, not that I encourage that, but while they're going through our program to make ends meet if they're accustomed to a type of lifestyle that our stipend cannot facilitate. Or you live like a poor student for 5 years, frankly. So you have lots of options, but we do give a stipend as part of the funding package. Does that help a little bit, Nigel? that clarify?
Yes, yes, I appreciate that. I just want to make sure I was either partially or totally excluded from that program because I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and not local to where you were. So appreciate the response.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, you could always move here.
Yeah, you could. And I wanted to mention that just like some of the MBA program options that Anthony mentioned, there aren't a lot of them, but there are some PhD programs that are hybrid or remote.
Yeah,
I'm
those.
sure a cursory Google search could probably get you more information on where those actually are.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Melissa, another question came about PhD, just particularly, is a master's degree required?
Absolutely not.
Beautiful. And then the last one I have is Sydney.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I had a quick question. Anthony, you mentioned that a bulk of the curriculum will be electives, and you can kind of pave or curate your path based off of that. Realistically, how many paths can you get a solid grasp and not necessarily be a subject matter expert, but be as much of an expert as possible? How many can you realistically choose, like between entrepreneurship and maybe real estate or any of the paths?
So one of the great things I would say about Haas is our belief in the idea of intersections. And so what you'll see is that there's a lot of overlap between courses, that there are probably courses that have both entrepreneurship and real estate tied together. And the other part of the answer to your question is that there are 13 areas of emphasis. Entrepreneurship and real estate are the other are 2 of those 13. So one of the biggest things is really thinking about how are the topics you have an interest in really connecting and looking for those opportunities to take your courses. I think one of the biggest things about the MBA that it's not about the specialization, but it really is about where do you want to have impact. And so you have to think about what do you need to be taking in order to actually like answer the questions that are going to be asked when you actually try to pivot into industry.
Got it. So I assume you really got to be thoughtful and intentional on how you pick your electives, and I'm assuming the advising administration can kind of help you think through it.
Yes, and that you do receive support. There's both academic advising, and then there also is career advising that happen at the same and similar conversations.
And I just had one more follow-up question to that. Do you consider like professional designations that are quantitative and based to determine like quantitative depth, like a CPA, a CFA, a CFP, kind of financial designations like that? Or do they not hold as much merit?
They hold merit. So the way you have to think about it is that as we think about your application packet, let's say that you take a standardized test and you're not a fan of standardized testing and your score isn't fantastic, but you've taken the CPA or you've taken the CFA and you have that evidence to document, hey, I have this industry certification. It becomes something that helps mitigate how we look at the standardized test score, where it's kind of like we don't, because when you think about the academic questions, there are 2 major questions that get answered. Are you a good student? Are you going to struggle in the quant space? So as you think about your application, what academic questions do you need to answer or prove with additional evidence? And so there's some people who either don't come from a financial background or don't do well in standardized tests, where having something else would help answer the quant question, versus someone who might have had a lot of difficulty during their undergrad because maybe they were working full-time and still going to school full-time, and that posed a strong challenge to them actually getting straight A's. So there are different questions that are within that idea of the academic rightness that you just have to think about.
Solid. Thank you.
All right, beautiful. So thank you so much, Anthony and Melissa, for educating us on UC Berkeley Haas and the PhD programs that are provided. Since we are done with the questions, I am going to pivot over to Elizabeth and Amy for UC Davis.
I have to hop, guys, but thank you, Melissa and Amy. Go Aggies, UC Davis alum. Thank you so much for all your support, and best of luck to everybody else.
Make sure you connect with them on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, will do.
Yeah, I'll put my thing in there right now.
Yeah, bye.
All right, thank you so much. And I have the unfortunate pleasure of following up to Anthony. He did a great job explaining everything. So let me share my screen. And I'm not sure which one it is. Let's go with that one. All right, you looking at a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
All right, that's a good start. All right, thank you again, Maisha, for inviting us today to participate. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your pipeline of applicants. Today, I'm going to focus on collaborating for impact, the Davis difference. And I'm going to start off just by kind of describing what's on the screen right now. So we have, one of the things that I love particularly about UC Davis is the collaborative culture that we cultivate. So in the picture, you might recognize Maisha in one of those pictures. We did an event, a networking event, and it was a two-part event. And the first part was like, how do you, like, what's the importance of a professional network? And I love the way that Maisha started this event by asking everybody to put their LinkedIn contact information in the comments in the chat, because that's a perfect way to segue into this. It's about finding people along your journey to help support you. And so I put my information in the chat as well. I'm sure Amy will probably do that, or she did earlier. And then in the other picture that we have there is one of our mentorship programs that it's relatively new. And I'm going to ask Amy to talk about that one.
Absolutely. I am happy. I couldn't repost in time, so I'm going to drop it in right on through now. Can you flip this slide a little bit?
Flip the slide a little bit.
Or is it in the next page?
No, I'm just talking about the Sacramento Kings.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, so the Sacramento Kings, this is a wonderful program that we have. So we are the premier educational partner of the Sacramento Kings this year. And they have a really fascinating mentorship program with this nonprofit that specifically targets young men of color, and they're looking to help them achieve their long-term, like fulfill their potential. There's both a high school program as well as a collegiate program. And the opportunity that our students have is to go back into the community and to share their advice. And, you know, one of the cool things about mentorship is that as you give, you also receive and you learn at that same time. We just met with them, I think, 2 weeks ago for another session where we also shared some general career advice through there. With the King's partnership, and the other opportunity that we have are some guaranteed internships for our students. So there's a set of internships that our students will be able to apply for where they're only competing against their classmates. I think there was a question earlier on about internships, and we really recognize the importance of that, particularly in this economy, and we look at different ways to facilitate that. The career team will start giving programming before you even submit your first tuition bill. So in the summer, we're getting you ready on, you know, helping you understand what are hiring managers looking for, how do you craft that narrative, how do you get your materials in order. When you come in during orientation, overlaid on top of some coursework is a lot of career programming to help you build out that narrative. And we work with our students both on the workshop level, and because we are a program where you're going to be one of maybe like 40 to 50 students, you're going to get a lot of individualized attention. So we have career coaches that you'll be able to meet with one-on-one, and they'll be partners with you in that journey at that same time. I'll turn it back to you, Lizzie.
Thank you. All right, thanks for that little segue. For those of you who are not familiar with UC Davis, we are located about 2/3 of the way between San Francisco and Sacramento. They're the big blue, dark blue star in the middle right there. We have multiple campuses around Northern California, and our Graduate School of Management has programs located at our main campus in Davis, in the city of San Francisco, in San Ramon, in Sacramento, and online. So the university and the Graduate School of Management both benefit from a small student to faculty ratio, which fosters a close-knit community and produces results such as being named #1 in agriculture and veterinary medicine, as well as #1 in the nation for campus sustainability. And I think specifically for this conversation, I think it's important to note that we are ranked #1 in the nation for diversity, inclusiveness, and internationalization. That statistic alone was one thing that surprised me when I first joined the Davis family. We are also ranked 10th best university in America by value, 5th nationally among public universities, and 12th among top 100 producers of minority bachelor's degrees, and ranked 2nd in top public university performers on social mobility. And as you can see, these are the programs that we offer at the GSM. We have the distinction to claim that all of our programs are STEM designated. We have 4 STEM designated MBA programs who share a 2-year curriculum and faculty. The difference is the locations and the formats of the various programs. The full-time program has a career development component that supports their internship experience. The part-time programs in Sacramento and San Ramon do not have internships, as they are designed for individuals who are already working. Their classes are held twice a week after 5 o'clock over Zoom and every other Saturday. So there's a regular hybrid experience. Our online MBA and our online Master of Management programs are the only online programs of their kind within the UC system. Both programs consist of pre-recorded class content that you can watch at whatever time is convenient for you. We also have our Master of Public Accountancy and our in-person Master of Management programs, and both are held in person at the main campus. And our Master of Business Analytics programs is located in San Francisco.
Thank you so much, Lizzie. And I'll add on, on the part-time programs, one of the things that we're really proud of is we made additional investments in our career development programming for part-time programs. And so there is dedicated staff that work with our students on the workshop as well as one-on-one level. We'll also do facilitated networking. So we just had this fabulous event where we were at the UC Office of the President. We got to meet with the Chief Investment Officer who manages $175 billion portfolio. We got to hear from the CEO of PIMCO. And then that evening, one of our faculty moderated a conversation with someone who's literally #1 on the Midas Tech Investor list, and his net worth is $3 billion as an individual human being. And so there's a lot of different add-ons that you can add if you want that career development portion as well too as a working professional.
So, thank you. All right. So along the lines of the collaborative leadership, we have a collaborative leadership program. And this program starts at orientation. You'll do a 360-degree feedback where it's a self-assessment and there's a team assessment as well. And we're really looking at your effective leadership characteristics as well as how others perceive you. During the first year, you'll be paired with a senior industry leader who'll be your mentor. That's a one-on-one relationship, which I think is really significant. It makes us a differentiator. And you will work on developing your skills and planning and opportunities for your growth. And you'll hone your collaborative leadership skills through team projects and also be encouraged to lead student organizations. During the second year of the program, you'll connect with top C-suite executives of global companies who will share their leadership experience and challenges in, let's say, fireside chats and information sessions that we offer through the career development program. And those workshops will also take a deeper dive into the 4 pillars of the collaborative leadership program and help you put them into practice. So here we have listed the 4 individual pillars. The first is to inspire others to achieve, to help others succeed, to build trust and positive energy, and to learn from others. And then, so at UC Davis, what we try to do is to inspire and transform and empower our students to build a culture of collaborative leaders and that are committed to making a positive impact on the world. And then to better iterate this program, I'm going to show you a very short video, and I hope my sound is on. Can you hear that?
When I started the MBA, I really told myself, 2 years is a short time, and how do you make the most of that time? So I'm president of our student association. I am the director of membership in Women in Leadership. I participate in the collaborative leadership program. I've done everything to really immerse myself in the Graduate School of Management. And it was something that really attracted me to the program because they talk a lot about the mentorship, you know, the experience that you'll get with C-suite executives, about how they came to be in those positions, what their learnings are. So that was something that was really interesting to me.
When I entered this program, one of the objectives was to step up in the leadership roles post MBA. When we were inducted, we were introduced to this collaborative leadership program, and we got to know about how you can make work more collaborative and more productive with people, because it's a world of diverse people.
Collaborative leadership is really interesting because we think of a leader of a business, you know, a CEO or a leader of the company as a sole individual. They're not. Actually, they're in support of a larger organizational goal. And in order to achieve a goal, you can't do it as a single person. You have to be collaborative with the people around you to come together to move the business forward.
Well, the conversations with the students has been very heartening. Curiosity is probably the most important gateway competency for a collaborative organization. And all of these students leaned in to every conversation, took every opportunity to speak to other leaders. I know is going to bode well for these students and as they move into their careers.
Being part of the collaborative leadership program helps me to, learn more about myself and help me, learn to trust people, empower people into creating a more positive and open working space, whether it's in a classroom or in a professional setting at the workplace.
This is something that not every MBA school, gives up, or, gives you an opportunity to meet so many, big people who are really successful in the career. And you learn from their experiences, you learn from their mistakes.
Hopefully I'm also leaving an impact on the program, which I think is really the heart of the collaborative leadership program, is the exchange between what you're putting in and what you're getting out.
Okay, so now I'm going to pivot gears and talk about our industry immersion programs. So the GSM Sustainable Energy Industry Immersion Program will allow you to dive into the latest issues and trends of this vital industry, which influences everything from environment and global development to national security and financial markets. The Innovation Finance Industry Immersion gives students the specialized skills, knowledge, and expertise required to be successful as the chief financial officer of a technology company. Students will learn about capital budgeting, managing funding for growth, managing business portfolios, mergers and acquisitions, and going public. The Food and Agriculture Industry Immersion Program will give you an educational experience unlike any other. You will have the chance to learn about the many facets of the food and agriculture industry from experts at UC Davis, which is consistently ranked the best agricultural school in the US and the world. Our biotechnology industry immersion provides students with vital knowledge in this important segment of the life science industry.
And I wanted to build on the immersions for a second, because this is a really cool thing is, Lizzie earlier on showed you our rankings in this space, and what the immersions do is they take the strengths of the campus and they bring them into the MBA program. In the food and ag space, for example, that immersion, we heard from traditional executives, like there was 1 week where we had about 12 to 14 execs, like VP level and up, from Coca-Cola hanging out on our 3rd floor. And then on the immersion day, the students got to hear from them. When you went to lunch, there were so many execs per student, and that opportunity to network and to pick their brain. So you get the traditional firms, and then you have firms that are doing this fascinating work around sustainability. So like upcycled foods are huge. Is like, how do you take something that would go to waste and how do you use it to create value? And so, for example, we got to hear from this CEO and founder of this company called Regrained. And what he does is when you make hops, when you make beer, there are all these hops that are left over. And he found a way to monetize them. And it's actually a really high quality protein source that people have been throwing away. And he's working with like 8 of the 10 major CPG firms. So he's taken a waste product, monetized it, helped the environment, created new jobs. And you see a lot of those themes, particularly in the energy sustainability and then the food and ag immersion too. I'll pass it back to you, Lizzie.
Thank you. So I wanted to use the food and agriculture as an example of the type of activities that occur during the 3-quarter curriculum. In the fall, the students experience exclusive tours, as Amy had mentioned previously. Those tours are done in Sacramento Valley and the Salinas Valley. Some of the other companies that are mentioned that the students visited were the Better Meat Company, Driscoll's, who's the world's largest berry company, Taylor Farms, which is a leading player in the packaging and distribution of leafy greens in the U.S. And they also visited Family Vineyards and award-winning olive oil orchards. In the winter, the students from multiple UC Davis departments are exposed to our students in the MBA programs. And they are exposed to significant managerial problems and challenges and opportunities in the food and ag space. And they're immersed in live case studies presented by top industry executives and teamed up with MBAs in problem-solving sessions to better understand the complex forces shaping and driving the industry. In the spring, the students do a deep dive in the leading topics of the industry. And those is for food and ag, that would be the impact of climate change on agriculture, how to feed the world's growing population, and how to implement game-changing innovations. And students present that information to each other. And they're presenting on the latest technologies, strategies, and the practices. So here's another video that talks about that.
We have a great opportunity to showcase what we do so well here, which is great science, excellent management. This is the best campus I can think of for actually bringing together multiple disciplines. The immersion program is an opportunity for students to explore areas of business activity that are of current interest. They're a chance for students to talk to top executives who are facing challenges in these different areas. Executives will bring their problems to the students, and the students will have an opportunity to engage them.
And we're coming up with an MBA program that focuses on the strengths of UC Davis, the food ag area, the sustainability and energy area, the biotechnology area. These are the areas that we are focusing on to highlight what UC Davis is all about.
And knowing that we were going to have companies like the CEO of Annie's or the CEO and some of the VPs of HM Klaus coming, I thought that being able to meet those people and see what those companies were about would be sort of a good window.
When I studied my MBA, I did not have the opportunity to interface with corporate executives. It was not something that was common. And to be able to help create the intersection of business meeting with science, that's what gets me excited, is really seeing UC Davis positioning itself, solving some of these problems.
Strong leadership is really what is absolutely needed to make a change. And this school and that program really shows that that's a priority. We're not just doing business as usual, we're doing something new. And I'm very excited to be a part of that.
And so here's some examples of the companies that sent their C-suite executives to come to talk to our students. This one is for food and agriculture, as Amy mentioned, the Coca-Cola and Gallo and Once Upon a Farm, really some really highly visible companies. And then for sustainable energy, these are a few of the examples of the recent speakers. I found Wells Fargo and Anheuser-Busch to be interesting additions to this particular group. They spoke about financing sustainability projects and reducing their carbon footprint as major manufacturers. And then we have the list for the biotechnology industry. So there's several Bay Area campuses in there. And I wanted to point out that all of our industry immersions are designed to be inclusive, respective of the experience level in the field. So seasoned professionals can expand their network and find a peer in the speakers, and then the early career students can find value by learning from someone else's journey. And then finally, we have the finance industry. And most recently, the class visit that I attended was taught by an individual who has spent his career in a venture capitalist. Do you have anybody that you can mention in from finance, Amy?
I'd say, I think, you know, in terms of the immersions, it's a chance to just really hear from people at a very high level in their careers. And what's really powerful for our students is just to realize, I'm like that. Like there's so much, there's not this mystique. That mystique is kind of washed away. And that's what I love is that like these are real human beings, and it helps our students see they are capable of achieving at this level and giving them that network to be able to do that at the same time.
Awesome. Thank you. And so Amy mentioned this previously, but we have a very robust career development team. There's one-on-one career counseling is a highlight of the activities that we have. As mentioned, we have dedicated staff for each of our MBA programs, and that allows those individuals to really get to know the people within their program in the Bay, in Sacramento, or in Davis, or online. And that facilitates the networking at another level. So they not only know the people that are in the room with you, they also know all of the people that came before you. And they can, you know, help facilitate those connections while you're a student or as an alum. So some of the events that they put on are company information sessions, industry and business function panels, resume writing, interview prep, job search. And just on a personal note, when I was going through my MBA program, I did not go to a UC, but I went to a large school, and there was a lot of activities that were one individual talking to like 50 or 100 people in the room, and we're just like standing room only. What I see at UC Davis is you actually get to have a conversation with that person. And I think that that's really significant. Especially if they've done the collaborative leadership as a mentor, or if they have participated in the industry immersions, there's an opportunity for you to actually get to know that person. So I think that has a lot of value. And I just wanted to go over the basics for the MBA application. So our next deadline is March 13th. So there's still time. You need a bachelor's degree, a resume. This is very similar to what Anthony said. So professional recommendations. I would say the best recommendation would be from your current supervisor. If that's not an option, then colleagues or clients if you're in the consulting arena. There's also a personal insight question. It's basically a goal statement. And then there's an optional hardship essay. And so I advise students when talking about the hardship essay, it's not necessarily exclusively hardship. It's if you are working, let's say, as a consultant, an independent consultant, and there's like, you work for a client for a year and there's gaps in your resume, that's where you can explain that kind of situation. I always advise students to think about that and take the opportunity to kind of give us all the information that you think we might need, because you'll never know what resonates with the person that's reading your application. And we see things differently than you do. So just put it all out there and we will, so we have it. In terms of logistics, we need unofficial transcripts for admission. We can get the official ones later. We require the GMAT or GRE for the full-time program. It is optional for the part-time students. And we require the TOEFL or IELTS for internationally educated applicants. And there is a $125 application fee, but that is waived if you attend one of our admission events. So if you signed up through our calendar invite for this event, then we will send that to you in a couple of days. If not, you can use the QR code and schedule a phone consult with me and we can get you a fee waiver code for that. And there will also have a lot of class visits. I think from my personal experience, the class visit really solidified my decision to get my MBA. visited my class, and I probably only understood about 50% of what the gentleman was talking about. So that really motivated me to learn that other 50%. And it opened my mind about what I didn't know. And I thought that that was a very valuable thing. So that is, oh, so we have any questions? Stop sharing. There's also a link on my LinkedIn page. So if you've connected with me through there, you can book a consult directly from my LinkedIn page.
And I can speak, Lizzie, thank you so much for giving that really thorough presentation. There's a question of, are the management programs remote? Yes, we actually do have the Masters in Management. We have a fully online Masters in Management. It will take about a year and a half, 2 years to complete. And then there are scholarships. They do tend to run more modest for the online programs. And then there's an online MBA. The other thing I would say is if you're looking at the MBA, know that, for example, the program Lizzie heads in San Ramon, the MBA is a hybrid one where right now the model is you take courses one night in the evening and then you come in every other weekend to do your do in-person coursework. And then you can also mix in online MBA classes if you wanted that, or you can say, I want to have an on-prem program and pick in-person electives. So it allows you a lot of flexibility with your life. Thank you.
There's a question from Donovan.
What can I do for you, Donovan?
Hi, Lizzie. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. My question is in regards to the part-time Bay Area program. Is the collaborative leadership program available to students in that particular program?
Absolutely. You can take the collaborative leadership program. There's also the industry immersions are also available to the part-time students. I think all of the career development workshops are usually done at lunchtime or after work over Zoom, so that all of our different platforms can benefit from the experiences.
Okay, wonderful. And then one more follow-up for you. And this is directed at Amy. You spoke a little bit about the facilitated networking events. So one of my, I won't say concerns, but one of my questions regarding the part-time program in San Ramon, is around networking, right? And being that you all have these facilitated networking events, how often do they happen throughout the semester, I would say, for the Bay Area part-time?
Yeah, so maybe I can speak to some of the ones that have occurred recently. So for example, we had there are both like major ones that the school will hold, and then there are ones that the students will engage with each other. And then there are ones that will tap into the external community. So for example, I think we brought about 175 people, 30 people from industry, from senior level all the way to VP level to San Francisco for both general speed networking and then analytic speed networking through that. We had, I mentioned that session where we traveled to the UC Office of the President in Oakland, and we had Bay Area MBA students coming to that session. Our students at campus will host like happy hours with each other. They're doing like a beach cleanup day. They do hikes with each other because it's about connecting across the networks. And then right now, I have a resume book where it's literally a call to our network, our students, to say, these are opportunities that someone's asking for your resume. So I have a live resume book that's taking place at a consulting firm that's actually founded by 2 of our MBAs. And they've hired already 3 of our students, and they're coming back for more. They're doing massive hiring. That job is not posted live. That is like, get me your people because I need someone to start in 2 weeks, and I know you guys are quality. I had another alum who graduated probably over a decade ago, and he's hired very successfully before. Like, he's a good manager, and he put his recruiter in touch with me because they have 2 more hires that they're looking to do. We were just talking with a VP at HP, and he he's like having a lot of trouble along hiring for product managers, engineers, technical product managers. And we literally, he gave us like this big list of here are the JDs I have. We have the students apply, and then we got their resumes flagged. And then we have a product management program that we're working really closely with him to create funnels. There was another one that I got a call from LinkedIn, and this one is a short-term contract position that they needed to have out, and that's literally live right now going out. So like there's opportunities. Sometimes you kind of have to kind of, see, can I make it with work and things like that? But just know the team will meet you where you're at. We don't force you to engage on week one, on quarter one, on year one. Our team is there. When you're ready, you tap in. At onboarding, we give you baseline information and knowledge. We also have competitions that our part-timers will do as well too. Like, we had a team travel to Boston and they were in the semifinals of Holt. And that's the largest social entrepreneurship competition. It's $1 million prize. Like President Clinton has been one of the judges before. And that was like part-timers that did that. And we help pay for their travel and coaching. So there's a lot of different things if you want it.
Okay.
There. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I want to add on to that the structure of the part-time MBA in Sacramento and in the Bay Area is we have every other Saturday in person, and we provide breakfast and lunch so that you guys can have that networking time. We recognize that you're working Monday through Friday. You're not always available to do an additional club or something like that. So there's built-in like almost automatic networking every other week. So whenever you're on campus working with your group projects, especially with the electives, is when you'll have some of our online students will come to the Bay Area because they want to network with our students. And so that's another opportunity. It's kind of like built into the program. And I think the industry immersions is probably a really good, a facilitator of that as well. So I know that you're in finance.
Yeah.
And so we have our finance industry immersion, and we bring in students from the online, the Sacramento, the Bay, the Davis, all of the graduate schools are open at UC Davis to take those classes as well. And again, we feed you all lunch, and so that we foster that networking. So it's kind of built in, which for me, I'm a naturally introverted person. I don't know why I have a job where I have to present and talk to strangers all day long, but having lunch with somebody is a better way for me to facilitate kind of my networking. So that's kind of like an introverted way of networking.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm an introvert too. So it sounds like Davis has me covered, as far as the networking opportunity, even if it's not on the main campus. So
no, and it's a very kind space, Donovan. I think that's what I love. Like, I mentioned I was a double Aggie, and I love that you get a lot of people who like we do great things in our careers, but there's like this this humbleness on through there and this like kindness. Like we really try to push that in our admissions, and then also in how we like onboard our students and work with them through that process. I will note for the immersions, a lot of it you will have to travel to Davis on a Friday on through there. And then there's another cool thing is that because we have the online MBA, so our cohort, the Bay Area cohort will be about 40, 50, give or take. But our online MBA cohort, that's like 400 plus people. And then they do these cool things called residentials that are Bay Area students can opt into. Sometimes they go to San Ramon, but you can travel and go. We were just at Anaheim. And as part of that, it's 3 days immersive, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have the coursework. There's a networking mixer built in the first night. The second night, there's a fun activity. So they went to Universal Studios during the second night. And then you have breakfast and then class on the third day on through there. So there's a lot of like different ways that you can kind of really enhance that experience, because we think about ourselves as one larger business school, one GSM.
Yeah. And if you, your elective classes can be taken in any format. So if you see a class, if you want to network with the people in Sacramento, go to Sacramento for an elective class. It's on a Saturday. You can go. So that's another way that we can do that. And then we have a dedicated program manager for the campuses, especially in Sacramento and in the Bay, that can help facilitate and kind of be the conduit to tell you what exactly the possibilities are within the university.
Thank you both.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
We have two from the same person in the chat. So how does the part-time and executive program differ?
Mhm.
And then does the Davis program require participation in a capstone or a thesis project?
Okay. So Amy, you want to tackle the first one and I'll do the second one. How's that?
For sure. There's no executive MBA here, but Anthony, I do believe you have a great EMBA program over at Haas. So for us, it's the full MBA experience. So the EMBA is like usually a shorter version through that, designed for people later in their careers. So we do get though VPs that are in our program. That's not uncommon, but they're here for that full experience on through. Go ahead, Lizzie, I'll have you tackle a second.
Okay, yeah. So the MBK does have a capstone project, and our project is a consulting project. And so we partner with a lot of the same people that you saw earlier in the presentation, where students have the opportunity to work on a small team that they can solve a project for a company.
Yeah, and it's really nice. So this is a nice thing to do particularly if you're looking to do a career switch, because it gives you that story. It's not a job, but it's a project. You might be working with executives, developing out different recommendations. Now, for those of you guys that are like super robust careers, you're like, I am just getting a promotion. I need to get through this program. I have family. There's a simulation option as well too. So you can either do a live project or you can do a simulation.
Beautiful. Well, thank you both. That is all of the questions that I see in the chat. And so what I'm going to do real quick is put everybody back in the room. All right, so we have a little under 3 minutes left in the session. I don't want to keep everybody over because it's dinner time. It's bedtime for some folks on here. So I do appreciate everybody jumping in, asking the questions. This is what it's about, is the access to folks who are at the places that you might want to experience your MBA or your doctorate at. And so I'm glad you guys actually jumped in and asked the questions that you need to ask, either chat or just talking through it. So thank you guys for that. Anthony and Melissa, thank you guys for chiming in for UC Berkeley Haas, MBA and PhD programs. And then Elizabeth, who are on the screen, Elizabeth, and Amy, thank you for chiming in for UC Davis and your wonderful programs there as well. I do encourage everybody who's on to definitely connect with all 4 of the folks that you met tonight from the schools if you have any more questions. As the National Black MBA, this is what we do. We provide access to great partners, especially collegiate partners, so you guys can explore options for higher education. So I'm super committed as a president to the service that we give, and as an organization in whole, I appreciate everything that we have been through as an organization from the 1970s through now, and understanding the importance of the access to education, but the access of the business opportunities that we get, including entrepreneurship, to create economic opportunities and generational wealth for our Black community. So appreciate everybody for jumping on tonight. But before you leave, I do have a session I'm going to drop in the chat for tomorrow at noon. Donovan, you are in finance. So tomorrow at noon Pacific time, we have a session with one of our corporate partners, HSBC. It's virtual. So make sure you register for that as well, because they'll be going through personal branding, and they do have some opportunities that we did send out to our members. So if you are not a member of National Black MBA San Francisco chapter, you will not have some of those opportunities. If you are in the Bay Area, Sacramento, any Northern California region, you can join the association. Just chat me on LinkedIn and I'll get you started there. If you are in a different area outside of the California area or even in LA, shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I can get you connected with the chapter presidents there as well. Our conference is coming up, so make sure you pay attention, because a lot of the UCs that are here, a lot of the universities and colleges around the nation are always at our conference. So there's more information for you to grab at conference along with the top Fortune 500 companies. So make sure that you guys pay attention to what's going out in National Black MBA's marketing, as well as your local chapter marketing. Save the date for September 17th through the 21st. It's the most amazing experience ever, so make sure you're there. And we will be in Washington, DC this year, so definitely a great experience. In 2 years, we will be in LA, so definitely a great experience. Again, thank you guys for joining us. Any questions that you have, feel free to email me. Feel free to reach out through LinkedIn to Anthony, to Mary, to Melissa, to Anthony, Melissa, Amy, and Elizabeth for any questions that you have on any of the UCs. And for UCLA, we will be pushing UCLA to a later date, so that will also go out as well. So if you're not in California, it is an opportunity to move to this great, beautiful state that we have. And if you are in California, keep exploring and finding all the great things that we have here. Our UCs are always the top UCs, and myself, I went to University of San Francisco for one of my masters. So I am right there in Sacramento, born and raised. So I'm always going to root for my hometown. So again, thank you guys for joining us, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night.